And yes, unity over division. It's time for us to lift our heads up, open our hearts, and remember who we are. We are the United States of America. There's not a single thing we cannot do if we do it together.
Mm-hmm.
United States of America feels pretty well right now. The idea of us calling ourselves the United States of America feels like it's pretty wrong right now. Fairly ashamed to say it, but I'm one of many who voted for the current president, Donald Trump. I challenge you to think back to what made you vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I know I sure have, and I've registered as a Democrat for the first time in my life. I'm doing that because I think this election is bigger than any political party. What I think, in light of current events, if nothing else, we need more than anything is a proven leader. Donald Trump's rhetoric it's divisive, it's dangerous. It's also really difficult to vote for someone who essentially has zero platform right now 4 months out from the election. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has very detailed things like unity, education, climate preservation.
You know, I'm hearing a lot of people say that. A lot of people are changing their...
I'm here. Proven leader with a history of caring about others.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying, I've heard a lot of people say that they're changing their political parties because it's no longer about Republican or Democrat. It's about what's best for this country.
Our nation is facing a lot right now, and over the next 4 nights, we're going to cover it all. But tonight, we're going to talk about 3 specific crises we face: the pandemic, an economic downturn, and an ongoing systemic racial injustice. So we're not just going to focus on what's wrong, we're going to talk about how to make it right. When peaceful protesters were tear gassed across from the White House, our next speaker stood up, stood strong, and turned that place into the Black Lives Matter Plaza in their honor. Please welcome Mayor Muriel Bowser.
It was here that John Lewis and Dr. King.
Hello, I'm Muriel Bowser, Mayor of Washington, D.C. The story of our nation's capital is a story of reckoning. It was here that John Lewis and Dr. King spoke on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. It was here that millions of women and men flooded the streets for the Women's March. It was here that just weeks ago, Americans donned face masks and safely and peacefully protested the death of George Floyd. But while we were peacefully protesting, Donald Trump was plotting. He stood in front of one of our most treasured houses of worship and held a Bible for a photo op. He sent troops in camouflage into our streets. He sent tear gas into the air and federal helicopters too. I knew if he did this to DC, he would do it to your city or your town. And that's when I said enough. I said enough for every Black and brown American who has experienced injustice. Enough for every American who believes in justice. But I said enough for another
guys, my mom was saying
I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I want her to grow up in an America where she's not scared to walk to the store. An America where she's safe behind the doors.
Great idea.
Saves you money.
The president doesn't fan the flames of racism and looks out for all of us. So I created Black Lives Matter Plaza right behind me as a place where we could come together to say enough. And by coming together this November to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we will say next, because we can't just paint those words behind them. We can't just say those words. We have to live those words. We have to undo the laws and systems that have codified racism for far too long. But we have to do something too. Each and every one of us challenge our own biases. If we see something, do something. Together we can turn this reckoning into a reimagining of a nation where we the people means all the people. There were a few people who stood on this very balcony as thousands of people peacefully protested in this city. One was our next vice president, my sister Kamala Harris. The others were members of George Floyd's family, who I'm honored to introduce.
George Floyd
was major.
Always made sacrifices for his family, friends,
and even complete strangers.
My brother George was selfless. He always made sacrifices for his family, friends, and even complete strangers. George had a giving spirit, a spirit that has shown up on the streets around our nation and around the world. People of all races, all ages, all genders, all backgrounds, peacefully protesting in the name of love and unity. It's a big legacy for our brother, but George should be alive today. Breonna Taylor should be alive today. Ahmaud Arbery should be alive today. Eric Garner should be alive today. Stephon Clark, Tatiana Jefferson, Sandra Bland, they should all be alive today. So it's up to us to carry on the fight for justice. Our actions will be their legacies. We must always find ourselves in what John Lewis called good trouble. For the names we do not know, the faces we'll never see, those who can't mourn because their murders didn't go viral. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor George and the many other souls we lost to hate and injustice. And when this moment ends, let's make sure we never stop saying their names.
Hoping for a life more sweeter. Hoping for a life more sweeter. Damn, just a story repeating. Why do I feel skin dark tonight? Do you feel peace with those judging eyes? How we moved on from the darker day, like a butterfly, with the words of the king's spirit there, like a butterfly. Somebody should hand you a felony, a chance to be. Cause you stole from me my chance to be. Hoping for a life more sweeter. Said I'm just a story repeated. Why do I feel skin dark as night? Those judging eyes. The tears of my mother rain over me. My sisters and my brothers sang over me. And I wish I had another day, but it's just another day. Hoping for a life more sweeter. That I'm just a story repeated. Why do I feel skin dark tonight? Those tonight. The tears of my mother rain over me. My sisters and my brothers sang over me. And I wish I had another day, but it's just another day.
hoping for life and more sweeter.
Wonderful. Very lovely song.
Whose song "Sweeter" featured Terrace Martin, a song written after George Floyd's murder. We have to ask ourselves, how do we, the people, take the protests and turn them into progress? How do we take the changes we're seeing in the hearts and minds of people and translate it into real and lasting change in people's lives? We need to address the economic inequalities that this virus has exposed and worsened, and we need to solve the testing and healthcare disparities that have led to people of color dying from COVID at higher rates than white people. And we need to make it easier for Americans to vote. We have a lot to do. And to do this, we need community action. We need Congress that can have power to do it, and we need a president who understands that this is the moment.
Economic inequity that exists in our nation. The moment has come for our nation to deal with systemic racism, to deal with the growing economic inequity that exists in our nation, to deal with the denial of the promise of this nation made to so many. I've said from the outset of this election that we're in the battle for the soul of this nation. We are in the battle for the soul of this nation. What we believe, and maybe most importantly, who we want to be, it's all at stake. That's truer today than it's ever been, at least in my lifetime. And it's this urgency. It's in this urgency. We can find a path forward.
Hey everybody, how are you? Thanks for doing this. Thank you. Jamira, tell the rest of us.
I started doing activism when I was 15. It was at the intersection of knowing my brother Andre was killed in Philadelphia. It made me realize that I had a responsibility, almost a collective responsibility, to ensure that that didn't happen to other people. And I think that's what's missing in America right now is our collective responsibility to each other, and to realize that the person down the street or around the corner or even across the country, that we have a responsibility to ensure that we're making sure that they're safe, they have access to education, and that in all, we're creating a world in which their differences are celebrated as well as protected under the law.
Mayor, how are you prioritizing the many things you have to do to, as we try to tackle in a way that we haven't before, systemic racism in the city?
It really is about economic empowerment. As the people are lifted out of poverty and they are given an opportunity to feel a stake in their own future, that goes a long way. And we're also challenging, all kinds of institutions, from corporations to community-based organizations, to think about what they can do better to end systemic racism and make sure that we're uplifting the quality of life in communities, but also the voices of people that traditionally don't have a seat at the table.
The president's talking about defunding the post office and mail-in voting. What do you think we should be doing, Mr. President?
First of all, we have to change the public discourse around voting. It should be seen as a democratic thing to do, a patriotic thing we can do, and not a partisan exercise. Secondly, how do we open up access to voting so we can address some of the systemic problems? Not only should we reauthorize the Voting Rights Act, we have to go further. Most importantly, voting should be seen as a constitutional right that's guaranteed, and with that level of sight, that all citizens can be assured that they can have unfettered access without being suppressed.
This is a watershed moment, and we can't lose this moment. We have got to have action at the national level. We have got to have congressional action. We cannot have 18,000 police departments, and in 2020 have police departments still allowing the use of a knee on a man's neck in George Floyd. A lot of us were shocked, and I think what gives me hope is that police officers were shocked. Police officers have spoken out, and we're hopeful that we'll have some national standards as it relates to policing, use of force, a national database, abolishment of prohibition and the national standard in terms of chokeholds, and that we actually used the death of George Floyd and others to actually make policing take it to the next level, which is what everyone wants, including all the good cops that are out there. And thankfully, there are more of them than there are bad.
Most cops are good. But the fact is, the bad ones have to be identified and prosecuted
Well, they're
and
very
out
garner.
there, period. Gwen, how are you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing pretty well, as well as can be expected.
You know, I'm sure that the words of George Floyd, "I can't breathe," are new to you and echo in your mind every single day. 6 years ago, your son died. We can't let this keep happening. What do you think the next thing we have to do?
Well, first of all, I know that my son was murdered. There was a big uprising, but when it settled down, we can't let things settle down. We have to go to the politicians, have to hold their feet to the fire, because otherwise the big uprising is not going to be a lot. So I'm just asking that if you become the president, that you make sure that we can actually go and help the state and local, especially when it comes to police brutality, because that has been an age-old problem.
Well, I may be kidding myself, but I think the people are ready. I think people are ready. We just got to keep pushing. We can't let up. Thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.
Hey, Eric, he looks like you.
He actually kind of does.
He
Just got to just grow a little more hair.
Yeah, you know, he does a little bit.
Black, brown, no matter what you look like, you should not ever be fearful of your life due to the color of your skin.
See, he looks like, look, dead on him. Eric, dead on him.
Lead us through this revolution that we're experiencing right now.
Joe Biden is a healer and he's a unifier. He will fight for the Black Lives Matter movement.
Undo, remove, tear down the remnants of structural and systematic racism in this country.
The systemic injustices that exist, things that our nation has overlooked that need to be addressed.
We need to stand on our platform and introduce legislation that makes this platform felt from coast to coast.
And I know that Joe Biden is the first core of the values that we hold so near and dear to our hearts.
I have a 10-year-old son. I want to make sure that there is a world that's left better for him.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn, here in historic. 6 months ago, I stood not far from
James Clyburn.
I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn, here in historic Charleston, South Carolina. 6 months ago, I stood not far from here and endorsed Joe Biden to be our 46th president. It was a decision I made with my feet firmly planted in this community. This community, where 80% of African Americans in this country claim an ancestor who arrived on these shores in bondage. A few blocks from here, over Gaston's Wharf. This community that is still healing from the wounds we received in white supremacy entered Emmanuel AME Church and murdered 9 black parishioners as they studied the Bible together. The ground beneath our feet is seeded with pain that is both old and new. But from that soil, we always find a way to grow together. Earlier this summer, the city of Charleston removed its statue honoring John C. Calhoun, an honored advocate of slavery. And construction is underway on the International African Museum at Gadsden's Wharf. Much like the country as a whole, we are stepping out from the shadows of our past and beginning to lay the groundwork for a more just future. It won't be easy. We can only succeed if we move forward together. So we will need a president who sees unifying people as a requirement of the job. A president who understands the true meaning of community, how to build trust and humility. And with so many families experiencing loss in this pandemic, lost jobs, lost loved ones, and lost confidence in the president, we need a president who understands the profound loss and what it takes to bounce back. But more important than his first-hand experience with loss and hardship is his ability to translate that perspective into policy and solutions, and prioritize hard-working people and resistant poverty counties over partisan politics or personal gain. That's why I stand with Joe, and why he will always be an adopted son of South Carolina. Joe Biden is as good a man as he is a leader. I have said before, and just to reiterate tonight, he knows Joe, but more than Joe knows us.
I do my building memories like build together is the single best thing I do with my time. For allowing me to be part of your lives and share for the past decade. We've got about 500 kids and families and and the back door and he was I have to always have a lot of experience because he surprised us all. I like to think of people from my time in the Marine Corps, my time as an officer, my time as a drill instructor, my time studying psychology. He was being real. I mean, you can't see that kind of a smile. He was genuinely happy with kids and spend time with them. It's easy to lose faith in humanity, especially today. There's a lot of polarization. People a lot for a lot of hope. It's really real characters. You know, policies are great. Policies as well. Because he's got the chops, right? But it's almost as if none of that matters. You don't have that. This is a very unprecedented and challenging time that requires an unprecedented and courageous leader. Someone with courage to do what's necessary, what's right, to strive for that's because he cares about everybody else before himself.
You know what else Joe knows? So, about the pandemic. He helped stop this war and brought the world together to contain. And after the success, knowing what happened again, President Biden assembled a to make sure that America was prepared and protected. The Trump administration disbanded.
For those of you who don't know, just want to say,
Americans have died.
Eva Longoria is married to Ryan Gosling.
We the people.
Why say Boston at the end then?
Science.
Yeah, no, you're thinking of Eva Mendes.
Oh, Mendes. I didn't. Okay, thanks. I was about right.
We're grateful.
He says you're thinking of Eva Mendes. Right.
Yeah, Eva Longoria is married to Jose Antonio Boston.
Clear direction and memorable PowerPoint.
Oh, here's the governor of New York.
Ground zero for the COVID virus. And have gone from one of the highest infection rates on the globe.
Today's Monday, day 170. New Yorkers were ground zero for the COVID virus and have gone from one of the highest infection rates on the globe to one of the lowest. We climbed the impossible mountain, and right now we are on the other side. We did it with the kindness and assistance of so many. New Yorkers want to thank everyone who came to our aid. 30,000 Americans who volunteered to come here to help in our hour of need.
It was great here.
Love gave us the strength to carry on. We went through hell, but we've learned much. We know that our problems go beyond the COVID virus. COVID is the symptom, not the illness. Our nation is in crisis. And in many ways, COVID is just a metaphor. A virus attacks when the body is weak and when it cannot defend itself. Over these past few years, America's body politic has been weakened. The divisions have been growing deeper. The anti-Semitism, the anti-Latino, the anti-immigrant fervor, the racism in Charlottesville, where the KKK didn't even bother to wear their hoods.
and in Minnesota, where the life was squeezed from Mr. Floyd. Only a strong body can fight off the virus. And America's divisions weaken.
Right.
Donald Trump didn't create the initial division. The division created Trump. He only made it worse. Our collective strength is exercised through government. It is, in effect, our immune system. And our current federal government is dysfunctional and incompetent. It couldn't fight off the virus. In fact, it didn't even see it coming. The European virus infected the Northeast while the White House was still fixated on China. The virus had been attacking us for months before they even knew it was here. We saw the failure of a government that tried to deny the virus, then tried to ignore it, and then tried to politicize it. The failed federal government that watched New York get ambushed by their negligence, and then watched New York suffer. But all through it learned absolutely nothing. So today, 6 months after it began, the nation is still unprepared. And we now face a second threat, but this time not from Mother Nature. This is a man-made threat by our own negligence. We now see the virus ricocheting across the country, from one state to another. Today, we trail the world in defeating COVID. We have over 5 million cases. Americans learned a critical lesson, how vulnerable we are when we are divided, and how many lives can be lost when our government is incompetent. But we learned something else, my friends. We saw the negative, but we also saw the positive. As they proved their way failed, we proved that our way succeeded. That America can still rise to the occasion. We can put our differences aside and find commonality. Government can tell the truth and can build trust. We can judge by content of character rather than color of skin. We can care for one another. That Americans can work together and forge community and a competent government. That of course we will wear masks because we are smart and because I care about you and because you care about me. Of course we will socially distance because staying away shows how close we actually are. Yes, we will set up testing and tracing and do whatever we need to do to mobilize to win this battle because we are America. We win wars. And we are the greatest country on the globe. And for all the pain and all the tears, our way worked. And it was beautiful. We showed that our better angels are strong, that Americans will rise to their call. We saw that even at the end of the day, even if it is a long day, that love wins. Americans' eyes have been opened, and we have seen in this crisis the truth that government matters and leadership matters. And it determines whether we thrive and grow or whether we live or die. Now we need a leader as good as our people, a leader who appeals to the best within us, not the worst. A leader who can unify, not divide. A leader who can bring us up, not tear us down. I know that man. I've worked with that man. I've seen his talent. I've seen his strength. I've seen his pain, and I've seen his heart. That man is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is what I call America tough. Tough in the best way. Tough that is smart, united, disciplined, and loving. Thank you. Joe Biden.
Folks, I just want to take a time out for a second. I want to introduce right here. I'm going to pause that. I just want to introduce Berkeley Council Member Ben Bartlett. Ben, welcome. How are you?
Okay, Ben. How are you? Hi.
How are you?
Welcome. How are you guys? Right on.
Yeah, we won't get too far in front of you, but I just wanted to say welcome and welcome to my cousin Essence. I think she put her mic off. So she's probably just listening, because in Tennessee, welcome. And we'll get back to the proceedings. And great to have everybody here. So without any further ado.
Quick sports-related fun fact.
Yes.
So at one point in the late 1940s, both the father of Andrew Cuomo, Mario Cuomo, himself also a long-term governor of the state of New York, and Fidel Castro were both under contract to the New York Giants.
Wow.
Nice. You can win a lot of bar bets with that one.
Yeah, and so folks, we will resume, and that's the kind of information you only get right here at Zenny 62.
The soul of America. And that's exactly what our country needs today. Thank you.
And now we'll hear from Kristen Urquiza.
Hi, I'm Kristen Urquiza. I'm one of the many who has lost a loved one to COVID. My dad, Mark Anthony Urquiza, should be here today, but he isn't. He had faith in Donald Trump. He voted for him, listened to him, believed him and his mouthpieces. They said that coronavirus was under control and going to disappear. That it was okay to end social distancing rules before it was safe. That if you had no underlying health conditions, you'd probably be fine. So in late May, after the stay-at-home order was lifted in Arizona, my dad went to a karaoke bar with his friends. A few weeks later, he was put on a ventilator. And after 5 agonizing days, he died alone in the ICU with a nurse holding his hand. My dad was a healthy 65-year-old. His only pre-existing condition was trusting Donald Trump, and for that, he paid with his life. I am not alone. Once I told my story, a lot of people reached out to me to share theirs. They asked me to help them keep their communities safe, especially communities of color, which have been disproportionately affected. They asked me, a normal person, to help, because Donald Trump won't. The coronavirus has made it clear that there are two Americas. The America that Donald Trump lives in, and the America that my father died in. Enough is enough. Donald Trump may not have caused the coronavirus, but his dishonesty and his irresponsible actions made it so much worse. We need a leader who has a national, coordinated, data-driven response to stop this pandemic from claiming more lives to safely reopen the country. We need a leader who will step in on day one and do his job, to care. One of the last things that my father said to me was that he felt betrayed by the likes of Donald Trump. And so when I cast my vote for Joe Biden, I will do it for my dad.
Thank you, Kristen, for sharing your story. Our nation.
Hey, so we're gonna come back. We're gonna hold that one, and
okay, I just need to get my charger.
Just want to emphasize my special guest here, Councilmember Bartlett. Hey, Councilmember, what are your thoughts on tonight's convention and what we're going through in this country? And welcome.
Well, I thank you for having me, Zenny. Good to be here. Good to see you all too. You know, that last piece was very powerful. You know, I've been thinking about this convention and what it could possibly do and what they could accomplish in this remote sort of digitized way where there's no energy, no passion. And I think they found it. The power is in these singular stories. The one person staring into their computer screen, the camera, if you will, and giving us her emotive lesson as to why we need a change. And that story right there was tremendous. It was powerful. It calls into sharp relief, I think, what the Democrats are really running on, which is Trump's mismanagement of the country and the cataclysm that's resulted.
And folks,
very powerful.
Folks, Councilmember Bartlett has served Berkeley really well. He's running for re-election. Tell your friends in Berkeley, put him back in the office. He's done a fantastic job for the city, and his many accomplishments would take another hour and a half to talk about, to say the least. Particular blockchain, financing work, affordable housing, reformation of law enforcement. The list goes on. Councilmember, I want to first say I'm honored that you're a Zenny 62 Media partner, and even before you're a partner, we're still helping you out. so it's kind of like, you know, family, and we're honored to have you here. Just want to say that.
The honor is mine, and thank you for having a steady alternative voice that communicates varying viewpoints because we need you right now more than ever.
Thank you very much. And folks, and again, this is my team here, and this is these are all the folks that have made it happen, and just wanted you to meet them. And
excellent. Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
nice to meet you all. All right.
It's an honor. Thank you.
How you doing, Ben?
Yeah,
pretty good. How are you all?
Man, this is the man.
Right on. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting campaign. Trump's damaged us so much, and he's continuing to raise the stakes with the post office and et cetera. And who knows what's coming up, right? September and October. So it's Biden's to lose if he can continue to communicate this message that he can deliver some better leadership, because we're ready for it. We need it. We want it. I'm really curious to see how they do this in this format. But that last bit gave me hope.
Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, let's get back to it.
I like it a lot.
I'll fire it up. Reminds me of the slogan for last campaign: "Fire it up, ready to go." Right?
Yeah, fire it up, ready to go.
fire it up, ready to go. Say that again.
Grieves for your father and all those we've lost to this virus. It's a toll that hasn't fallen equally on us. People of color have been disproportionately affected, dying at greater rates than white Americans, but we can honor all of those we've lost by giving Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the opportunity to put in place a real national plan that tests and tracks, that makes sure that access to a vaccine will be fair, and turns the full power of our government toward making sure we have the supplies and technology and people, scientists and public health officials and contact tracers. We need to stop this. So right now, let's hear from a champion for our frontline workers, who also happens to be an Olympic champion and a World Cup champion, Megan Rapinoe.
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Rapinoe, and I have the distinct honor today to host a conversation with 4 of our frontline workers here in America. Should we name them heroes? Absolutely. Chung Lee, can you tell us a little bit about how you're doing during this time?
So early on, when the government was still trying to figure out proper protocols to protect frontline workers, I had unfortunately contracted COVID through patient contact and was isolated by myself for 2 weeks. So total isolation, no contact. Once I recovered, luckily, I went back to the front lines to continue to take care of the sick. And what got me originally was watching people die alone. There were no visitors allowed. Everyone was totally isolated. And I knew how that felt, because for 2 weeks, that was me. Not knowing if you were going to wake up, not knowing if you were going to make it, who you were going to talk to, if you can say goodbye. This was people's moms, dads, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, all dying alone. And we know there's a round 2 coming, and mentally, physically, emotionally, I don't know how many of us on the front lines are going to survive that second round.
Dr. Bradley, what effects are you seeing inside your hospital doors of the inaction of the Trump administration when it comes to this COVID response?
It's heavy. I mean, I've left the emergency department in tears, and so have a lot of my colleagues. People are exhausted, and we're looking at the tsunami that's coming this winter with COVID and influenza. And I think all of us are wondering, how is our system not going to just collapse? Because if we're not there, when people come with their broken arms, or they come with their heart attacks and strokes, their appendicitis, we're not going to be there.
What were you seeing on the front?
That's interesting. Hold on a second.
In those very early days.
I should mention more for a second. I have CNN also on as well, and they didn't show Megan Rapinoe on speaking in the panel, which I thought was kind of weird.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, I closed the one in that, but it was just a commercial break.
Upgrade to C-SPAN, Vinny, and you'll see everything.
Oh, I'll get to that right now. Good point. Thanks, Bill.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this is actually the feed here. We're on MSNBC.
I'm back in my. This time I know I'm fighting. This time I know I'm lost you in the border town of anywhere I found myself, and I was calling everywhere. Yeah, this time I know I'm fighting. This time I know I'm back in my body. Oh, 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 oh,
Nice. Lovely voice.
When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, all I could think about were my students and their families.
All the suffering and pain and death that really didn't have to be this way.
If we had leadership in place that would have taken this pandemic seriously in the beginning, we would not be in the situation we are in now.
We still at this time don't have the necessary PPE.
And I am very worried about what is in front of us. We're going to have classrooms that maybe have not been sanitized properly because we don't have the money for that kind of equipment. We're going to have classrooms packed with students. And so the virus is going to be hard to contain. So this is very dangerous for the safety of our kids.
I hope that the new leadership takes American lives seriously.
I know Joe Biden understands that the only way to keep people safe and our economy strong is to follow the recommendations of doctors. And we're going to do everything we can to get Joe Biden elected.
Not before Gretchen comes first.
That's true. Who's Gretchen?
Hello, America. I'm Governor Gretchen Whitmer, or as Donald Trump calls me, that woman from Michigan. Here at UAW Local 652 in Lansing, Michigan. Auto workers in this union and across our state could have lost their jobs if not for Barack Obama and Joe Biden. In 2009, the Obama-Biden administration inherited the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The auto industry on the brink of collapse. 1 million jobs at stake. But President Obama and Vice President Biden didn't waste time blaming anyone else or shirking their responsibility. They got to work. They brought together union members, companies, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, and they saved the auto industry. And wouldn't you know, just a few months ago, as our nation began battling COVID-19, auto workers across Michigan sprang into action. They started making protective equipment for doctors and nurses on the front lines. Let me break it down. President Obama and Vice President Biden saved these auto workers' livelihoods. Then these workers did their part to save American lives. That's the story of this great nation. Action begets action. Progress begets progress. And when we work together, we can accomplish anything. After all, democracy is a team sport, especially now. It's crucial that we rally together to fight this virus and build our economy back better. From the jump, we took this pandemic seriously in Michigan. We listened to medical experts. We planned. And with a lot of work from the auto workers and too little help from the White House, we executed our plan. We saved thousands of lives. Just imagine if we had a national strategy. So everyone who needs a test gets one for free. So everyone has access to a safe vaccine. so our kids and educators have the resources they need to safely get back to school. With Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House, we will. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will lead by example. It'll be science, not politics or ego, that will drive their decisions. They know the health of our people goes hand in hand with the strength of our economy. They know action begets action. Over the past few months, we've learned what's essential, rising to the challenge, not denying it. We've learned who is essential too, not just the wealthiest among us, not a president who fights his fellow Americans, rather than fight the virus that's killing us and our economy. It's the people who put their own health at risk to care for the rest of us. They are the MVPs. The nurses and the doctors, utility workers, truck drivers, and grocery clerks, the child care workers, the parents, the teachers, the mail carriers, and the auto workers. So many of these essential workers have lost their lives to COVID. Nearly 1,000 healthcare workers, more than 170,000 people across America, including a 5-year-old girl named Skylar from Detroit. Mom is a police officer and dad is a firefighter. Generation after generation, mission has been defined by what we do, what we fail to do. So, for Skylar, for her parents, in the memory of all those we've lost, let us act. Let us heal as one nation. Let us find strength.
Everybody Dreyfus, Martinez, Michelle Boyle, and Chung Lee, I can't thank you enough. The American people are forever indebted to your work and your sacrifice.
I've been in this road before. I remember every tree.
All of the work you do on the front line.
Everything you make me do holds a special place for me. I remember every time. Every detail. Every song I ever sang. It's our matter of team. I remember every night. I miss you in the morning. Roses miss
Now over 170,000.
I mean, all of the people, even though they might not agree, even though they might not expect to see a Democratic convention, Joe Biden is a guy who has earned the respect he commands across the world and across the aisle. The stakes in this election have that. We have to think about more than one thing. And that's why we're about to hear from some unexpected. I'm going to Christian studies.
I'm here to welcome someone who has strong ties to our state and is here in She is reminding all of us to keep fighting through.
I made it bigger. I make this screen bigger. That's why I switched over. Also, the other one is more the direct feed. That's why there was a late delay. So. Hey, Susan.
Joe. No, I've also as Donald Trump calls me, that women
Former New York representative.
No, I've also gotten to know and work with Joe Biden on issues related to women. They're so important to all of us. Women in business, violence against women.
I'm delighted and honored to introduce a former colleague of mine. The former Congressman of Ohio, the former Governor of Ohio, John Kasich.
He's a really good man.
America is at a crossroads. Sometimes elections represent a real choice, a choice we make as individuals and as a nation.
about which path we want to take when we come to challenging times. America is at that crossroads today. The stakes in this election are greater than any in modern times. Many of us have been deeply concerned about the current path we've been following for the past 4 years. It's a path that's led to division, dysfunction, irresponsibility, and growing vitriol between our citizens. Continuing to follow that path will have terrible consequences for America's soul, because we're being taken down the wrong road by a president who is pitting one against the other. He's unlike all of our best leaders before him, who work to unite us, to bridge our differences, and lead us to a united America. I'm a lifelong Republican, but that attachment holds second place to my responsibility to my country. That's why I've chosen to appear at this convention. In normal times, something like this would probably never happen. But these are not normal times. I'm proud of my Republican heritage. It's the party of Lincoln, who reflected its founding principles of unity and a higher purpose. But what I have witnessed these past 4 years belies those principles. Many of us can't imagine 4 more years going down this path. And that's why I'm asking you to be choosing a better. I need to America. Founding principles of unity discovered our shared beliefs. From what I have witnessed in the past, future which can be bright, hopeful, and inspiring. Down this stuff. I've known Joe Biden for 30 years. I know his story of profound grief that has so deeply affected his character. I know Joe is a good man, a man of faith, a unifier, someone who understands the hopes and dreams of the common man and the common woman, a man who can help us to see the humanity in each other. He knows that the path to restored and rejuvenated America lies in respect and unity and a common purpose for everyone. Yes, there are areas where Joe and I absolutely disagree, but that's okay, because that's America. Because whatever our differences, we respect one another as human beings. Each of us searching for justice and for purpose. We can all see what's going on in our country today, and all the questions that are facing us. And no one person or party has all the answers. But what we do know is that we can do better than what we've been seeing today, for sure. And I know that Joe Biden, with his experience and his wisdom and his decency, can bring us together to help us find that better way. I'm sure there are Republicans and independents who couldn't imagine crossing over to support a Democrat. They fear Joe may turn sharp left and leave them behind. I don't believe that, because I know the measure of the man, reasonable, faithful, respectful, and you know, no one pushes Joe around. Joe Biden is a man for a time that call for all of us to take off our partisan hats and put our nation first for ourselves and, of course, for our children. When America chooses the right path and pulls together, like we've done so many times before, then we can dream big dreams. And we can see the top of the mountain as a United States of America with a soul that is a beacon of freedom in the entire world. Like we've done so many times before, and we can dream big dreams. And we can see the top of the mountain as a United States of America with a soul. A lifelong Republican. A long-standing Republican. I have great courage and I speak left for Barack Obama.
That's a bigger screen. So I was trying to get the screen in the lineup right. So.
And Joe Biden is just the person to ensure we get our life. With a long history of public service to America. That's not great. Strongly encourage Joe Biden to just the person who return a street political skills, decent measure of policy. I'm absolutely sure he's
Just asking.
I'm on board.
Cool.
It definitely works, Eddie. Thank you.
Senator Doug Jones from the great state of Alabama.
And that's we're about to hear from unexpected.
Rosa Parks helped ignite a movement by refusing to give up her seat. The freedom riders of different places came together in pursuit of equality. The John Lewis marched across the bridge toward freedom. At a young age, I knew the hope that comes from seeing people work to heal freedom. What led me to become the United States Attorney, where I completed 2 cases who murdered 4 young black girls in a 1963 Virginia with long overdue justice. I'm standing in front of an exhibit dedicated to their memories. Alabama has shown me that even our deepest divisions can be overcome, because each of us want the same thing: to be treated fairly and given the same opportunities, and the freedom to live with dignity and respect.
I'll be right back.
Against each other. But I believe that Americans have more common than all.
Wow.
I've been for more than 40 years. I'm known as a wildlife law student. I became my friend and champion ever since. For me, I know exactly what I think you need right now. You can bring people together and find common ground while speaking out what it means to fight. Here's a good time to unite our country and pursue things for working families and everyone looking for a better future. Because it's not about what side of the aisle we're on, but whether or not we're on the side of the peace. John Lewis would often quote the impact of the Bible when he prayed, and he challenged us to do just that. As a nation, he said, if we care for the beloved community, we must move our feet to reconcile and not to hate, to heal and not to share. One house. The American
America is at that crossroads today. The stakes in this election are greater than any in modern.
Here we are on a Monday night in 2020, and we need to talk about the U.S. Postal Service. It is so much of our lives. Here we are on the post office to get their prescription. Social Security count on the post office to get their checks, their parents, send virtual cards to their grandkids. Small businesses need help to do business. Post office is also one of the ways we count our votes. So find out how to exercise that right.
Major. Very major.
Grandparents use handbills and birthday cards. Grandpa is the first to the United States Senate. Senator Tom Perkins, post office, also one of the ways we count our votes. To find out how to exercise that right, everybody or in person, vote
one of our most fundamental rights at home. But despite what the president says, voting by mail has been a secure, permanent option for decades. In 2016, Americans voted by mail.
More Americans than ever before are stable and exercising one of our most fundamental rights.
And listen to the people of Nevada to put in place one that a Republican Secretary of State has asked me to.
The Democratic Party has undermined that right. It's looking for holding the funds in Nevada. It's time to work. Has asked the judge He's smart, and active. He's putting the lives of Black seniors at risk, including our fundamental right to vote. And this fall, we will send Joe Biden to the White House and wants to win more. Well, Mr. President, our power is the unreasonable power. America is not expand voting access and protect voting rights. To do this, America, we do on our part. So go to Biden.com. And this fall, we will send Joe Biden to the White House to protect. Donald Trump did not out. Democrats will use the stand together and turn this country to voting rights. To do this, America, we need to had a historic field of presidential candidates. An historic number of women, including our vice presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, more candidates of color than any primary ever, and the first openly gay man to win a caucus. This party, the Democratic Party, welcomes everyone, encourages everyone to lead, and invites everyone's ideas to ensure this country builds back better. This is what our next speaker believes too. More candidates of color than any primary ever, and the first openly gay man to win a caucus. This party, the Democratic Party, welcomes everyone, encourages everyone, and invites everyone's ideas to ensure this country builds back better.
You know, the president may hate the post office, but he's still going to have to send them a change of address card come January. Donald Trump just happens to be in my state today.
Hello, America. My friend Catherine, I believe the right to vote is fundamental. And the post office is fundamental.
Hey guys, I'm back.
The president may hate the post office, but he's still going to have to send them a change of address card in January.
The United States Americans, about our shared values, our shared dreams, how we come together in the face of crisis,
and the significant needs of our economy.
Oh, Minnesota.
The Democrats, independents, and yes, many Republicans have had enough of this crisis.
Trying to get stuff done. It's
not wrong about how we unite with Americans, all your shared values, our shared dreams.
I win one. It is more than a motto. It is the North Star for our democracy. Now more than ever, we need a president who will unite this country. We need a president who will be George Floyd's memory. Instead of using the Bible as a prop, we will heed its words to act justly. We need a president for the workers who've lost their jobs. This administration is selling American workers out. We need a president who will unite this country. We need a president who will be George Floyd's memory. Tired of losing what they sound. We will heed its words. Here's where's my dad? We need a president for the workers who lost their jobs, never knowing the people is selling American workers out when we need to buy America. The farmers and manufacturers in the middle of this rural America who are sick of joining reaping what he's selling. We need a president who will look after the seniors like my dad. His family is now visiting through glass windows. Working class roots, a man whose own hardships have only made him more determined to lift up those who have been left out. He understands redemption and he knows resilience. Joe Biden is a man of deep experience. Barack Obama, better known tonight as Michelle's husband, he leaned on Joe for his strength and decency, and you can too. You know, most candidates, when they end their campaign, redemption, and he knows resilience, filled with great joy. Because the day I ended my presidential campaign was also the day I endorsed Joe Biden. Joe ran for the same reasons I did when I announced my campaign in the middle of that blizzard on the banks of the Mississippi River. When they end their campaign that day is a hard one. For me, with great joy.
The day I ended my presidential campaign was also the day I endorsed stuck in the middle of the extremes in our politics. If you are tired of the noise and the nonsense, you have a home with me, and you have a home with Joe Biden. That's why I was so proud to stand with him then and across this great country. That's why we are all now standing united behind Joe and my friend Kamala in the middle of our nation's politics. Before the noise and the nonsense. And as you're about to see, it's also the story of the Democratic primary. I was so proud to stand with him then and across this country. That's why we are all now standing united.
That was a great speech. I liked it.
I liked it a lot too.
Yeah.
My mom was always very big on Amy personally. She was always a big Amy fan. She thought she was someone that was strong. She thought someone that was very resilient. She always thought that she was someone that she would really look up to. And that speech shows it.
In control of our own future, and we need to provide millions of Americans a real path forward.
I want him on my show, Andrew Yang.
Oh, I'd love that.
I want Andrew Yang.
My roommate was for the Yang gang all the way.
Well, let's get Cory Booker on and talk football.
That'd be nice. We should have Chris Christie on one time and ask why he's a Cowboys fan.
Did he say a lack of moral character?
Maybe. Actually, it's because he liked the cheerleaders. I'm not joking. That's actually the real reason.
For a second, I thought he said cheeseburgers, but it works either way.
There could have been that too. He might have liked the food at the concession stand.
Joe Biden is somebody who deeply cares about people who are marginalized, who are being left behind, who are being ignored.
I'm a doctor recipient, and I know you have in this day and he's had some hard times in his life. He's had some losses in his life. And I think that is something that people relate to. You know,
Close to 15 years cancer free.
Well, I was in a service for 4 Afghanistan soldiers. I saw those families who were so comforted by Joe Biden. When they walked out, they knew someone cared for them, someone could relate to their own pain they were having. We need that in the White House.
I still remember standing side by side with him on the debate stage, and we were having a go of it. But what was remarkable to me was in the commercial break, he puts his arm around me and starts telling me how good my ideas are. And next thing you know, I feel like he's giving me a pep talk and really telling me how important it is, how really important it is that I'm on that stage.
Joe called me the night I suspended and was extraordinarily gracious and comforting, and he told me I should be proud of myself. He said that I did myself and my family a real service, and the country a service. That meant a lot coming from Joe.
Look, it's not easy to unite the Democratic Party. We're a bunch of screw. Joe Biden has pulled it off.
He wants to get the best ideas on the table so we can move forward in the best way possible.
He's included my family bill of rights.
He's unified our group around a clean energy strategy.
He's the kind of leader that brings other leaders.
Yang run Department of Commerce. Yang for Commerce.
Who actually walk in and have already sort of honed the instincts indeed to lead the most powerful nation on earth through a crisis.
On the other side, Donald Trump does not understand who we are as Americans. Really doesn't. This is a guy that blames everyone for everything. You know, he blames the city of Baltimore. He blames the country of Denmark. He blames the Prime Minister of Canada for cutting him out of the Canadian version of Home Alone 2.
Nicely done.
I'm downward. Dig it.
person is Joe Biden. Joe knows because he will bring decency and dignity back to the White House.
So one shot to Donald Trump, a become president. And that shot is right now.
We understand that things are tough right now economically, but if we're going to beat Donald Trump in November, we need your help. If you're able to go to joebiden.com and chip in $5, $10, whatever you can, to fund the change we need to save our democracy, because every bit matters, and it's going to take all of us to make this happen. And no one knows that more than our next speaker, the Biden-Harris campaign's co-chair, Representative Cedric Richmond from New Orleans, Louisiana.
No, I'm just giving a hand.
Finding the change we need to save our democracy, because every bit matters, and it's going to take all of us to make this happen.
This art studio, where a creative guy with a great idea and a ton of hustle turned an abandoned building into a second home for the entire community. You know, economists will tell you that small businesses like this one are critically important to our recovery. But they're also just plain important. Without them, the places we call home just wouldn't be the same. That's the thing Joe Biden understands, that Donald Trump never has and never will. When we talk about the economy, it's not just about the stock market. It's about whether you can find work that really means something to you, instead of feeling like it's supposed to be great just to get a paycheck. It's about whether people who didn't inherit millions from the family build business ground up and have a real chance to compete. And it's about whether in the richest country on earth, everyone, including women and people of color, feel included and empowered. Economists will also tell you that Joe Biden's plan to rebuild our economy will create millions of jobs. But Joe will tell you that his plan is about more than that. Because he's seen the world from a different perspective than most politicians. He knows what it's like to live in a real neighborhood, not just penthouse apartments. He knows what it's like to take the train to work and not just to shake the limousine. He looks at our economic the same way working will place millions in a way that puts working people first. Joe Biden respects America's workers because he truly understands the dignity of work.
Looks at our economic challenges the same way
You know, well, it's mostly small talk when we first met.
in a way that puts working people first. Joe Biden
collected
respects
ticket and time went on, I learned more and more about him as our friendship grew. I think he's most comfortable around everyday working class people. Just always makes me feel like he belongs.
I think he's
I don't care where it is. Is it your family?
Joe Biden, whatever it is. As a single dad, he promised to be home to visit with his family. And make them breakfast in the morning. Joe Biden.
You got on the train. You're good for everybody.
He promised to be home to visit with his family. You got to know the people who
They're always keeping the balance, collecting tickets, helping with their bags, and they're doing this for hours. We became really good friends. These guys are very interested in my life, my children. Time went on my grandchildren. People don't do that to me. People don't take time out to say hello or nod their head to the average working person. They look at us like real important people.
He would treat the conductor the same as he would the President of the United States. That is what Dad taught us, that everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. After Joe became Vice President, conductor the same as he would the President of the United States. Kept in touch. That is what Dad taught us. When Greg Weaver everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
I was in a barbershop in New York City and the phone rings. And sure enough, it was Vice President Biden asking me how I'm doing. He wanted to know the whole story. It's kind of funny to talk to the Vice President of the United States, but if I would have told the people in the barbershop, I think they would have believed me. I'm not saying it like it was me and I was anything special. Everybody was special to him. There are heroes all over this country. A lot of the essential workers out there that we don't even see are behind the scenes keeping this country going. He understands that. Everybody is special. The average guy is important to him. A lot of the essential workers out there that we don't even see are behind the scenes keeping this country going. He understands. The average guy is important.
Bernie.
The one I was scared of. I just didn't want.
Moment. We're facing the worst public health crisis in 100 years and the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression. We are confronting systemic racism and the enormous threat to our planet of climate change. And in the midst of all of this, we have a president who is not only capable of addressing these crises of authoritarianism. This election is the most important in the modern history of this country.
They're confronting systemic unprecedented well-managed appointment.
Do any of you guys watch Finding Your Roots? The Skip Gates TV show?
To stand up and fight for democracy and decency and against greed,
I guess that's a no.
anarchy, and bigotry.
Yep.
And we need Biden as our next president.
Yep.
Let me take this opportunity to say a word to the millions of people who supported my campaign this year and in 2016. My friends, thank you for your trust, your support, and the love you showed Jane, me, and our family. Together, we have moved this country in a bold new direction, showing that all of us, black and white, Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, native-born and immigrant, yearn for a nation based on the principles of justice, love, and compassion. Our campaign ended several months ago, but our movement continues and is getting stronger every day. Many of the ideas we fought for that just a few years ago were considered radical are now mainstream. But let us be clear. If Donald Trump is reelected, all the progress we have made will be in jeopardy. And it's most basic. This election is about preserving our democracy. During this president's term, the unthinkable has become normal. He has tried to prevent people from voting, undermine the U.S. Postal Service, deploy the military and federal agents against peaceful protesters, threatened to delay the election, and suggested that he will not leave office if he loses. This is not normal, and we must never treat it like it is. Under this administration, authoritarianism has taken root in our country. I and my family, and many of yours, know the insidious way authoritarianism destroys decency and humanity. As long as I am here, I will work with progressives, with moderates, and yes, with conservatives to preserve this nation from a threat that so many of our heroes fought and died to defeat. This president is not just a threat to our democracy, but by rejecting science, he has put our lives science trying to protect us from the pandemic. To produce the masks, gowns, and gloves our healthcare workers desperately need. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Trump golfs. His actions spanned this pandemic, resulting in over 170,000 deaths and a nation still unprepared to protect its people. Furthermore, Trump's negligence has exacerbated the economic crisis we are now experiencing. Since this pandemic began, over 30 million people have lost their jobs, and many have lost their health insurance. Millions of working families are wondering how they will feed their kids, and they're worried that they will be evicted from their homes. And how is Trump responding? Instead of maintaining the $600 a week unemployment supplement that workers were receiving, and the $1,200 emergency checks that many of you received, instead of helping workers, families are wondering fraudulent executive orders that do virtually nothing to address the crisis while threatening the very future of Social Security and Medicare. But the truth is that even before Trump's negligent response to this pandemic, too many hard-working families have been caught with no hope of ever getting out. Together, we must build a nation that is more equitable, more compassionate, and more inclusive. I know that Joe Biden will begin that fight on day one. Let me offer you just a few examples of how Joe will move us forward. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This will give 40 million workers a pay raise and push the wage scale up for everyone else. Also make it easier for workers to join unions, create 12 weeks of paid family leave, fund universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, and make child care affordable for millions of families. Joe will rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and fight the threat of climate change by transitioning us to 100% clean electricity over the next 15 years. These initiatives will create millions of good-paying jobs all across our country. As you know, we are the only industrialized nation not to guarantee health care for all people. While Joe and I disagree on the best path to get universal coverage, he has a plan that will greatly expand health care and cut the cost of prescription drugs. Further, he will lower the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 down to 60. To help reform our broken college system, Joe will end private prisons and detention centers, cash bail, and the school-to-prison pipeline. And to heal the soul of our nation, Joe Biden will end the hate and division Trump has created. He will stop the humanization of immigrants, the coddling of white nationalists, the racist sordidness, the religious bigotry, and the ugly attacks on women. My friends, I say to you, to everyone who supported other candidates in the primary, and to those who voted for Donald Trump in the last year, the future of our democracy is at stake. The future of our economy is at stake. The future of our planet is at stake. We must come together, defeat Donald Trump, and elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our next president and vice president. My friends,
Been a long time. Yeah, that was good. That was really
This is why all my peers supported Bernie all the way. Unites a lot of us.
Hey guys, what'd y'all think? Hold on.
Oh,
My American dream is to
this is why so many people my age support Bernie. He is such a big innovator in terms of the way he thinks, has a very progressive way of thinking. While many could see it as a little too radical, he is right that it has gotten more and more mainstream to the point where that just feels kind of normal.
Has focused on rebuilding the middle class.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, it's funny because, I remember
Leadership to show
Bernie Sanders from his earliest parts of his career, and he's one of those guys that
has the experience.
Once again, I guess to use sort of a scouting analogy,
To build America.
sometimes you see a prospect, as a true freshman, they start right away, they're going to be a star. And sometimes there's a walk-on, he's on special teams for a couple of years, an injury forces him to play, and then, I do something there.
Courage.
But so you put them on the back burner of your mind. They bounce around for a while. Somebody brings them in as an undrafted free agent, and then they get a chance to play. And it's like, you remember like that tape you saw them years ago?
Bill, Michelle's talking.
Oh, Bill, Michelle's coming on.
Okay.
Tell me afterwards.
I will afterwards.
The former First Lady, Michelle.
Don't worry, it's okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's a hard time.
Michelle.
Everyone's feeling it in different ways. And I know a lot of folks are reluctant to tune into a political convention right now, or to politics in general. Believe me, I get that. But I am here tonight because I love this country with all my heart. And it pains me to see so many people hurting. I've met so many of you. I've heard your stories. And through you, I have seen this country's promise. And thanks to so many who came before me, thanks to their toil and sweat and blood, I've been able to live that promise myself. That's the story of America. All those folks who sacrificed and overcame so much in their own times because they wanted something more, something better for their kids. There's a lot of beauty in that story. There's a lot of pain in it too. A lot of struggle, justice, and work left to do. And who we choose as our president in this election will determine whether or not we honor that struggle and chip away at that injustice and keep alive the very possibility of finishing that work. I am one of a handful of people living today who have seen firsthand the immense weight and awesome power of the presidency. And let me once again tell you this. The job is hard. It requires clear-headed judgment, a mastery of complex and competing issues, a devotion to facts and history, a moral compass, and an ability to listen, and an abiding belief that each of the 330 million lives in this country has meaning and worth. The president's words have the power to move markets. They can start wars or broker peace. They can summon our better angels or awaken our worst instincts. You simply cannot fake your way through this job. As I've said before, being president doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you are. Well, a presidential election can reveal who we are too. And 4 years ago, too many people chose to believe that their votes didn't matter.
Presidential election can reveal
the outcome wouldn't be close. Maybe the barriers felt too steep, whatever the reason. In the end, those choices sent someone to the Oval Office who lost the national popular vote by nearly 3 million votes. In one of the states that determined the outcome, the winning margin averaged out to just 2 votes per precinct. 2 votes. And we've all been living with the consequences. When my husband left office with Joe Biden at his side, we had a record-breaking stretch of job creation. We secured the right to health care for 20 million people. We were respected around the world, rallying our allies to confront climate change. And our leaders had worked hand in hand with scientists,
to help prevent an Ebola outbreak from becoming a global pandemic. 4 years later, the state of this nation is very different. More than 150,000 people have died, and our economy is in shambles because of a virus that this president downplayed for too long. It has left millions of people jobless. Too many have lost their health care. Too many are struggling to take care of basic necessities like food and rent. Too many communities have been left in the lurch to grapple with whether and how to open our schools safely. Internationally, we've turned our back, not just on agreements forged by my husband, but on alliances championed by presidents like Reagan and Eisenhower. And here at home, as George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and a never-ending list of innocent people of color continue to be murdered, stating the simple fact that a Black Life Matters is still met with derision from the nation's highest office. Because whenever we look to this White House for some leadership or consolation or any semblance of steadiness, what we get instead is chaos, division, and a total and utter lack of empathy. Empathy. That's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. The ability to walk in someone else's shoes. The recognition that someone else's experience has value too. Most of us practice this without a second thought. If we see someone suffering or struggling, we don't stand in judgment, we reach out. Because there, but for the grace of God, go I. It is not a hard concept to grasp. It's what we teach our children. And like so many of you, Barack and I have tried our best to instill in our girls a strong moral foundation to carry forward the values that our parents and grandparents poured into us. But right now, kids in this country are seeing what happens when we stop requiring empathy of one another. They're looking around wondering if we've been lying to them this whole time about who we are and what we truly value. They see people shouting in grocery stores, unwilling to wear a mask to keep us all safe. They see people calling the police on folks minding their own business just because of the color of their skin. They see an entitlement that says only certain people belong here. That greed is good and winning is everything, because as long as you come out on top, it doesn't matter what happens to everyone else. And they see what happens when that lack of empathy is ginned up into outright disdain. They see our leaders labeling fellow citizens enemies of the state while emboldening torch-bearing white supremacists. They watch in horror as children are torn from their families and thrown into cages, and pepper spray and rubber bullets are used on peaceful protesters for a photo op. Sadly, this is the America that is on display for the next generation. A nation that's underperforming not simply on matters of policy, but on matters of character. And that's not just disappointing, it's downright infuriating. Because I know the goodness and the grace that is out there in households and neighborhoods all across this nation. And I know that regardless of our race, age, religion, or politics, when we close out the noise and the fear and truly open our hearts, we know that what's going on in this country is just not right. This is not who we want to be. So what do we do now? What's our strategy? Over the past 4 years, a lot of people have asked me, when others are going so low, does going high still really work? My answer,
Going high is the only thing that works. Because when we go low, when we use those same tactics of degrading and dehumanizing others, we just become part of the ugly noise that's drowning out everything else. We degrade ourselves. We degrade the very causes for which we fight. But let's be clear. Going high does not mean putting on a smile and saying nice things when confronted by viciousness and cruelty. Going high means taking the harder path. It means scraping and clawing our way to that mountaintop. Going high means standing fierce against hatred while remembering that we are one nation under God. And if we want to survive, we've got to find a way to live together and work together across our differences. And going high means unlocking the shackles of lies and mistrust with the only thing that can truly set us free, the cold, hard truth. So let me be as honest and clear as I possibly can. Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is. Now, I understand that my message won't be heard by some people. We live in a nation that is deeply divided, and I am a Black woman speaking at the Democratic Convention. But enough of you know me by now. You know that I tell you exactly what I'm feeling. You know I hate politics. But you also know that I care about this nation. You know how much I care about all of our children. So if you take one thing from my words tonight, it is this. If you think things cannot possibly get worse, trust me, they can and they will if we don't make a change in this election. If we have any hope of ending this chaos, we have got to vote for Joe Biden like our lives depend on it. I know Joe. He is a profoundly decent man, guided by faith. He was a terrific vice president. He knows what it takes to rescue an economy, beat back a pandemic, and lead our country. And he listens. He will tell the truth and trust science. He will make smart plans and manage a good team. And he will govern as someone who's lived a life that the rest of us can recognize. When he was a kid, Joe's father lost his job. When he was a young senator, Joe lost his wife and his baby daughter. And when he was vice president, he lost his beloved son. So Joe knows the anguish of sitting at a table with an empty chair, which is why he gives his time so freely to grieving parents. Joe knows what it's like to struggle, which is why he gives his personal phone number to kids overcoming a stutter of their own. His life is a testament to getting back up. And he is going to channel that same grit and passion to pick us all up, to help us heal and guide us forward. Now, Joe is not perfect, and he'd be the first to tell you that. But there is no perfect candidate, no perfect president, and his ability to learn and grow, we find in that the kind of humility and maturity that so many of us yearn for right now. Because Joe Biden has served this nation his entire life without ever losing sight of who he is. But more than that, he has never lost sight of who we are, all of us. Joe Biden wants all of our kids to go to a good school, see a doctor when they're sick, live on a healthy planet. And he's got plans to make all of that happen.
Joe Biden wants all of our kids, no matter what they look like, to be able to walk out the door without worrying about being harassed or arrested or killed. He wants all of our kids to be able to go to a movie or a math class without being afraid of getting shot. He wants all our kids to grow up with leaders who won't just serve themselves and their wealthy peers, but will provide a safety net for people facing hard times. And if we want a chance to pursue any of these goals, any of these most basic requirements for a functioning society, we have to vote for Joe Biden in numbers that cannot be ignored. Because right now, folks who know they cannot win fair and square at the ballot box are doing everything they can to stop us from voting. They're closing down polling places in minority neighborhoods. They're purging voter rolls. They're sending people out to intimidate voters, and they're lying about the security of our ballots.
Yep.
These tactics are not new. But this is not the time to withhold our votes in protests or play games with candidates who have no chance of winning. We have got to vote like we did in 2008 and 2012. We've got to show up with the same level of passion and hope for Joe Biden. We've got to vote early, in person if we can. We've got to request our mail-in ballots right now, tonight, and send them back immediately, and follow up to make sure they're received, and then make sure our friends and families do the same. We have got to grab our comfortable shoes, put on our masks, pack a brown bag dinner, and maybe breakfast, because we've got to be willing to stand in line all night if we have to. Look, we have already sacrificed so much this year. So many of you are already going that extra mile. Even when you're exhausted, you're mustering up unimaginable courage to put on those scrubs and give our loved ones a fighting chance. Even when you're anxious, you're delivering those packages, stocking those shelves, and doing all that essential work so that all of us can keep moving forward. Even when it all feels so overwhelming, working parents are somehow piecing it all together without childcare. Teachers are getting creative so that our kids can still learn and grow. Our young people are desperately fighting to pursue their dreams. And when the horrors of systemic racism shook our country and our consciences, millions of Americans of every age, every background rose up to march for each other, crying out for justice and progress. This is who we still are.
Options should be put on the table.
Compassionate, resilient, decent people whose fortunes are bound up with one another. And it is well past time for our leaders to once again reflect our truth. So it is up to us to add our voices and our votes to the chorus of history, echoing heroes like John Lewis, who said, when you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. That is the truest form of empathy. Not just feeling, but doing. Not just for ourselves or our kids, but for everyone, for all our kids. And if we want to keep the possibility of progress alive in our time, we want to be able to look our children in the eye after this election, we have got to reassert our place in American history.
Options should be put on the table.
And we have got to do everything we can to elect my friend Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. Thank you all.
Wow. Thank you.
I've had
Wonderful.
ice cream from the place where she and Barack had their first date.
Need more of that example. Thank you so much for being part of this
That was the
unconventional
ice.
convention. Thanks to all of y'all who
Very good ice cream also.
It's a convention about you and for you, the American people. This is our chance to hear from those who will be leading us out of our nation, out of the current crises on the economy, the pandemic, racial injustice, to listen and to learn about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's plans to bring about changes we all need. This is our chance to unite across America. In addition, we'll call the roll and we'll hear from the future First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden. I want to thank you again for joining us. Join us the rest of the week. This is your convention. This is your campaign. And we, the people, are going to save this democracy in November. Right now, Billy Porter and Stephen Stills are going to remind us what it's all worth.
Nice, Billy Porter.
In our remaining few minutes,
There's something happening here, but it ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. Think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right, everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their mind, getting so much resistance from behind. Gotta stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What a beautiful
Woo, that was something. So it's been gavelled to a close, and I want to share something with you all, as they say before we talk, and it goes like this. It's right here. This is from Joe Biden, 2007.
Yep.
And let's give a listen.
In our remaining few minutes, the questions turn to two subjects, God and guns. First question.
Hi, I'm Zane Abraham in Oakland, California.
Oh.
The cathedral behind me is the perfect backdrop for this question. This quarter reads United States of America. And when I turn it over, you find that it reads Liberty. In God we trust. What do those words mean to you?
Thank you. Biden. Reform is my values. My reason dictates outcomes. My religion taught me about abuse of power. That's why I moved to write the Violence Against Women Act. That's why I take the position I take under 4. It came about as a consequence of the reasoning that we were able to do it. You know, look, I don't think they're inconsistent. I don't find anything inconsistent about my deep religious beliefs and my ability to use reason. I think the coin's got it just right. I think I have it in perspective.
So I just wanted to share that with you.
In our remaining few minutes, the question is
pretty cool. That's a pretty good question, because we're reminded every day, whenever we hold the change in our hand and we look on the back of that quarter and we see "In God We Trust." That is a pretty deep philosophical question that we should ask ourselves. What does that mean to us?
Yeah,
it means that something it means everything to someone else.
Yeah, you've got a bunch of different opinions and a bunch of different feelings and emotions. But something like that is, I think, something that, not only do we need to ask ourselves, but I think Zenny, you hit the nail on the head. It's a question that I think needs to be asked at every convention. What does this mean to you? Because as people, we can see who's genuine about their answer and who's scripted. And I feel like in so many ways, we want to tell people what they want to hear, but we're so afraid of the truth. And
or how they react to it.
Right, exactly, or how they'll react to it. But yeah, I mean, that was amazing, and it hits all of us individually, but collectively, and also in our own different way.
For me, first of all, how that all came about was Steve Grove, who was the news and politics editor for CNN, reached out to me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we've been watching your." This is when YouTube was this small, and and so we've watched your political videos, and we'd like to know if you would make some sample videos for the CNN YouTube Democratic debate. And I said, sure. And so that just sort of came to me. But the reason is that we talk about the separation of church and state, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that coin brings into stark relief the fact that we really don't separate church and state. We do so when it's convenient for us. And I think the worst example of that was President Trump holding up a Bible. He couldn't
upside down.
And not only that, he couldn't even tell you what Bible it was, and he doesn't read the Bible generally.
It's a great Bible.
I give him credit for holding on to it that long with all of the shocks and pains that must have been shooting through his body at that moment. It showed a certain amount of toughness.
Yes. Wow. We have been a country that has been built on the Lord. And you can talk about or debate what that means, but what it means to me is, regardless of whether we go up or down, north or south, left or right, or whatever, there's always a true north that the decision to follow the Bible takes us. And because of that, we've always trusted in our leaders to have a biblical foundation so that we can turn around and say, oh, by the way, I'm having a convention, so you're not going to impede on my convention and advertise over it. Or I'm not going to just come out and call NFL players SOBs because of a flag celebration that I actually supported when I got on David Letterman on January 8th of 2015. And I'll go on and on and on and on and on. We all can. This is the first time in my history, my mom's history, she'll be 86, where we have a person in the White House who doesn't seem to really like his own country. That's just, he claims otherwise, but that's what it looks like to me. It looks like he really hates America. And not only that, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think he's trying to destroy the Republican Party. I really do.
I think he's fine with America. I think he hates Americans. I think you need to make that important statement. But
that's true.
Yeah.
But let's be very clear. This is a nation of seemingly diametrically opposed ideas and contradictions from its very founding and beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We love freedom, but we also love slavery. We right? We love peace, but we also love shooting each other like no other group of human beings in the history of the planet. We have these deep contradictions, right? A country that people fled other nations to find religious freedom, and then as soon as they got here, began persecuting other people for their religious faith. So, I mean, like the minute they got off the boat, heretic. So, I'm not even joking. Look up the founding of Rhode Island Colony. It was all people who had to flee Massachusetts Colony to save their damn lives. Roger Williams and the people who founded Rhode Island Colony went there because they would have been hung or burned or whatever if they'd stayed in Massachusetts. Look it up. So
don't forget this. Rhode Island, everyone calls it Rhode Island. That's not even the full name of it. The full name of Rhode Island is actually the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. Granted, they're moving.
I did not know that.
Well, Vinny, you paid attention in your history classes.
You're assuming that was told in the history classes.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that was not told in history classes.
Right.
The reason why
also a good point.
The way I found out about that was actually the news that they were voting to remove that aspect. Now I say, I thought it was always called Rhode Island just because they were going around. But no, it's Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. But they never mention that. They just say Rhode Island. They don't say the full thing.
Well, while we're at it, who here knows why Case Western Reserve is called Case Western Reserve?
I do not.
I have no idea.
Okay, so what we now call the state of Ohio was once the Western Reserve of Connecticut, when Connecticut was still a royal colony. So what we now call Ohio was actually part of what was called the Western Reserve. And the name still clings to the universities like Case Western and some other things. You'll find documents. So you're talking about how there's some official documents you can find in Ohio that still make reference to the Western Reserve. That's where it comes from. So yes, history nerds unite. But back to your question about In God We Trust. How many people here know that Thomas Jefferson was so thoroughly disaffected with certain parts of the Bible that he literally went through and cut them out with a razor?
Yes, I do know about that. He cut out so many parts that it was no thicker than a comic book, if I recall.
By the time he got done. So he didn't believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ. He believed Jesus Christ was important and a prophet and things like that, but not that he was the son of God genetically, or however you want to put that. Oh, yes. I mean, Jefferson was very much a deist, as was Franklin and many others. So people talk about the founding fathers, and they always couch them, particularly religious people, or some people of faith, not all. But a lot of sort of hardline evangelicals have gone back and rewritten the faith of the founding fathers to match their own. But that is not. These are Enlightenment thinkers, people. These are Enlightenment thinkers for the most part. Were there some evangelicals sprinkled in? Yes. But not the majority of them. The majority of them were somewhere between sort of moderates or sort of radicals. Like I said, like Jefferson particularly. Franklin was maybe not quite as far as Franklin was not quite as far as Jefferson, but he was similar in that he once wrote in one of his pamphlets that he saw God as a divine watchmaker. That it set things in motion and then kind of moved on. I mean, you can pray if it makes you feel better, but in Franklin's way of seeing faith, God sort of put things in place. It's like, you guys go, you guys, which is one reason he supported the revolution. He'd been very strongly in favor of being a part of England until, well, really, he was one of the.
It wasn't fun anymore.
Well, right, exactly. So that wasn't working anymore. But I mean, and his son, it destroyed his relationship with his eldest son. I think his name was Richard, if memory serves it correctly, because Richard was in fact still the royal governor of New Jersey even after the revolution started, and eventually his son had to flee in order to save his life. So the Franklin family was divided down the middle on this.
William Franklin, not Richard. It was William.
William. Richard was the one who died as a baby. That's right. Richard died as a child. So there's all these contradictions literally woven into the fabric of the nation. Woven inexorably into the fabric of the nation. So when people say, oh, I don't believe blah, 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 it's like, well, we have a sort of an etch-a-sketch approach to our national memory, and then it's just blank again. There's a lot of things that Americans don't know about America.
Hey,
that's it right there. That's the nail on the head right there.
Let me ask this question, and let me ask a question of all of you. Actually, Bill made me think of this. Because the one problem we have in Oakland is that we've had term limits, and the combination of term limits in particular and social media and generational change, three combinations, have caused people to quite literally see their city wrecked by the fact that its institutional memory has been all but destroyed. I'm starting to wonder if that's the same problem for the United States, where we have people who don't have institutional memory, an appropriate one for the past, and people will have to relearn. For example, why would anybody have the nutso idea of picking up arms and protesting against somebody because they're African American, unless they weren't taught that it was actually an evil thing to do, because they were out, and in order for that kind of climate to fester, you have to have a loss of institutional memory to say, we need to teach that diversity is good, that people, regardless of color, are good. And yet it seems like we have to regurgitate the idea again and again and again. I'm thinking, where did we go wrong?
Okay, once again, historian speaking, I've heard people say crazy things. Oh, racial relations are worse than they've ever been. Dude, what? Dude, what?
Bruh, don't you remember, I don't know, the Civil War, where we literally fought for 5 years over slavery?
You don't have to go back that far. I mean, I can take you to Boston, Massachusetts in 1972, 73, 74, when in the North, people are setting fire to things and throwing things and literally, one of those amazing pictures, literally attacking a black man on the steps of the Capitol building in Massachusetts with the American flag.
I remember that photograph was.
Oh, I remember. I know that picture.
That was a single reason why I didn't want to go to Harvard, even though I eventually wound up going to interview at the Kennedy School. But I had that in 85, but I had that in the back of my mind. This is in Massachusetts,
one of the hubs of the abolition movement. But they were okay with slavery ending, particularly in the South. But the idea that my kid and your kid are going to have to sit next to each other in sociology class, that's not okay.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Nope. That wasn't happening.
Not only that, I remember actually seeing, the first time I saw that picture was actually when I think it was when the person that was stabbed by the flag was actually interviewed in the 30 for 30 documentary for the Celtics-Lakers rivalry.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, like, because even then, I knew that Boston had a bad reputation of a racial divide. I
Well
did go to
earned.
Boston
Yes.
one time in 2016, but I didn't see many African Americans except for one time when we visited the cemetery and we saw all these African Americans decked out in suits that were actually part of the Freemasonry, believe it or not.
Sure.
That was the
Yeah.
only time I saw African Americans, especially in a group setting in Boston, in that area, and there was the colonial path.
Yeah.
Well, most tours, if you get on one of those take a
I'm
tour,
just going
they'll
for
take you over to Roxbury for some reason. I don't know why. But you have to remember, like I said, this nation has this amazing ability to forget. Like, we're not that old as most countries go. Like, France is like 8 times older. Or like, there's always been, not 8 times, I'm exaggerating slightly, but France has existed in one shape, form, or fashion, since not long after the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. Italy's pretty darn old. Like, lots of countries are way older than this one. And they have this ability to, be modern and everything, but still hold on to a real a real construct about what the past was and what it meant.
They don't forget it,
right?
They don't forget it, and they teach it, and they educate their generations to understand it. They make sure that what happened is never forgotten. They make sure that they talk to them not only about what was working, but what they had to go through to get to where they're at. That is the mistake that this country has made.
Even a country like Germany with a, how shall we say, complex, multi-layered history, has managed to do a pretty good job of telling the truth about their country's past.
That's it.
And, I mean, South Africa is a great example. So one of my professors is...
I'm not back because you said Germany. I'm just back. So.
Right. So one of my professors, I guess he's finally retired. I have to check. He may have retired. But Dr. William Thomas Trent and his partner in crime, Dr. Anderson, were amongst sort of the first great, some of the first great experts in what's called education policy. In fact, they founded the first education policy studies department in the United States. Now there's several across the country. And he's been a consultant to South Africa as they went from having, as we did at one point, 2 very separate school systems that had to become one school system. Right. And with all the stuff that comes along with that, including seeing how differently children were taught certain things. Of course, the history of South Africa taught it even in different languages in some cases, right? So you have these schools where Afrikaans is the language, and the history is being taught to all these white children, obviously, is very different from what's happening in other parts of South Africa where it might be taught in English. And of course, they just leave some stuff out, right? It's like, ooh, not sure we should touch on this. We'll pick up on this later, right? So when they try to take those school systems and merge them and develop a single curriculum, they turned to people who've done similar or attempted to do similar things in the United States. And then one last little thing, I guess my direct connection to this, my mother's mother, she was an educator in the state of Delaware, and there's a commendation somewhere, it's in the Schomburg now, she got from Dwight David Eisenhower, because she was one of the people who, for no pay, spent an entire summer trying to ramp up Delaware from having, once again, 2 separate curricula and take those 2 curricula and make it into one curriculum. So she and a group of black educators and a group of white educators sat in the auditorium of Bancroft High School in Wilmington, Delaware, and turned 2 curricula into one curriculum. And so, even though I don't think they paid her anything for it, she did get a nice thank you from Dwight Eisenhower. So South Africa turned to us, of all places. Hey, you guys used to have 2 separate school systems. How do you do that? And I would say maybe you shouldn't turn to us, but they did, and so one of my professors that I had in graduate school was one of the people that helped South Africa to do that.
Wow.
So, how did this go?
Oh, this tonight, you mean?
Tonight went very well.
Yes.
Oh, I loved it.
Love
I
the
absolutely
interaction.
loved it. I loved the speaking, and even though I was a little bit unsure about how the DNC or just even the RNC would go in terms of virtual convention, I actually really, really liked the format because without the crowd, you get to just hear person talking and no one else. And with this format, you were able to listen to the voices of everyone. Now you might be saying, but you already had the audience there, weren't you? Already listening to the voice of everyone? Yeah, but it's all being drowned out just by cheering. You're not really hearing the people from their hearts. And
Right.
you
And
saw the speaking of former Republicans that were endorsing Joe Biden, whether that's the average person or even someone like a John Kasich. You also saw Bernie Sanders come out and support. You saw the other people like Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Yang, Beto O'Rourke come out and show their dedication to not for the Democratic Party, but for the country as a whole. They want to have someone that unites us, not divides. It's what I've always said. If you add, you multiply. If you subtract, you divide. And what this says that when you add the number of people together in a situation like this, you multiply your message, you make it bigger. But when you subtract, when you get rid of, when you put down immigrants, when you put down gay people, when you put down women, when you put down people of color, when you say all lives matter, you say all that stuff, you divide. You divide your message. It's very skewed, and it becomes a lost train of thought. But I gotta say, even with Bernie speaking, even with Gretchen speaking, even with Doug Jones speaking, I love all their messages. But I gotta say, those were all the coming attractions. The film, the main entree, the entree that comes after the appetizers, after the hors d'oeuvres, all of that. By far, without a shadow of a doubt, is Michelle Robinson Obama.
Yeah.
Of course, as Bill said,
I was trying to get my mom to come in and join. She said,
as Bill said, Craig's little sister. No, not the actor Craig Robinson, the executive for the New York Knicks. I mean, Michelle Obama is such a wonderful speaker. Not to put down Melania, but unlike Melania, she is someone that really unites the room. She is even though she's a first lady, she really has a message. I remember when I was younger, I used to see her all the time on Nickelodeon. I remember she once guest appeared on iCarly for an episode. I remember that pretty vividly. And she was one that really wanted kids to come together, go outside, plant, vegetables. She was one that wanted her kids to really be difference makers for not just themselves and their family, but also people all across the country. And I see that same Michelle Obama then as I did today. I see that same woman that is so authentic in the way she speaks. She is not BSing. She's not just saying it for attention. She means what she says. And you could tell she is well informed. You could tell she's educated. And you could see that she's dedicated to every single thing she says. And that is why she was the highlight of a night full of wonderful speakers. She was the one that deserved the standing ovation. And I gotta say, if this is how we're starting the DNC, I can't wait for tomorrow. I can't wait for Wednesday. I can't even wait for Joe Biden to give a speech. I thought this was an incredible event, and I can't wait to see what else is in store.
One thing that I realized, I thought I would miss, one thing that I realized actually I didn't miss. And I think the best way to explain it is to basically show it. And the best way to show it is to go back to the room that I created for this, and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay, and it's all the way. I have to go down and find it first, because I've added so much content to this thing.
Well, Zenny, while you're doing that, I'll just really quick give you my thoughts on it. You know, this was something, and I will piggyback off what Vinny said. You know, you got to actually hear the speaker speak. You know, I've never had the opportunity to be actually at the convention such as yourself, but I'm sure when you're there, your focus wants to be on the individual speaking, but you're surrounded by so many like-minded individuals that sometimes you might miss part of it, you know? And tonight, that wasn't the case. Tonight, we got to hear everyone who was either running to be the Democratic nominee or an individual who has had a major part in the Democratic nomination. And they got the opportunity to really be heard. And I think, you know, Vinny was very apropos what he said. It was very simple. This wasn't about a party. This was about uniting the country. And by far, I still say,
I mean,
go ahead.
Is Zenny going to say anything, or?
Oh yeah, I'm going to say something. I was just waiting. You can go ahead. I'm just trying to bring up.
So, you know, what I was going to say was, and by far, you know, listen, I have heard numerous people speak. As we touched on yesterday and in previous conversations, I was at the first Obama inauguration. I was there and I heard him speak, and I still have that on, you know, audio just to listen to him. There's something about when Michelle Robinson Obama speaks. You know what it is? I think for me, she is very transparent. She's very genuine. And you know that what she says carries so much weight, not only on us, but on her. It is truly one of those, she says what she means and she means what she says. And that's why, you know, granted, I had to leave, but I had to make sure I came back for that because I was not missing that.
Yeah, no, Mom went in the other room because we had two voices slightly out of sync. She was like, I gotta hear.
And you know, and night one, they have definitely set the bar for what's to come. I'm very interested to hear what Mrs. Biden has to say.
Dr. Biden.
Excuse me. Thank you. Dr. Biden. I'm very curious to see what she has to say. I'm very curious. Well, I shouldn't say I'm curious. I'm excited.
Yeah.
To hear what Vice President Joe Biden has to say, because he's another individual. That entire group, you know, for 8 years, when we heard them speak, I've been following all the Twitter feeds. There was someone, you know, she's a very highly touted reporter for an organization. I'm not going to call her out, but I mean, she just put in a nutshell, after listening to Michelle Obama, I'm ready to run through a wall.
Who said that though?
I'm not gonna. No.
What, you got a thing for her or something?
No, it's nothing to do with that. I am respecting.
He's protecting his source, did he? He's protecting his source.
His source what?
Source.
Protecting what? She don't know you.
Okay. Zenny, you're not the
do you
only
know
one
her?
with connections, my friend.
Is she gonna burn you?
Yeah, you have a good point there. You have a good point.
I'm just saying. But but my point is, when we hear certain people, when we hear certain people talk, when we hear them speak, it evokes something inside of us that causes us to relatively self-accountability ourselves and say, what more can I do? And I feel that's what happened, tonight listening to her.
Okay.
That being said, gentlemen, I have to get up early so I can vote.
I'll share this with you.
So go ahead.
Eric, before you go,
sure.
This is you're talking about being on the floor, and this was after the Obama acceptance speech in 2012.
Tout.com.
It's crowded.
So I'm here from the floor of the Democratic National Convention, and President Barack Obama has given a speech that states his case for re-election and his case for moving America forward, in stark contrast to Mitt Romney and the Republicans last week in Tampa. That was an outstanding speech.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent,
You guys were
well
awesome.
delivered.
You guys
And
were great.
thank you very much,
You
by
guys
the
were
way.
great.
Thank you. And
So proud.
it's
So
like,
proud.
and you were awesome.
Only one really
You're
problematic person.
Thank you. And so I have to say, professional, cool under fire, like the rest of the administration has been. That's another story. But one of President Obama's better speeches, considering the time, race speech is still the best, in my view. But this is the top five.
Yeah, very inspiring. Yeah, on the stage together. You can play. I think it's going to take a lot to get around even in the money after this speech.
I would say, in terms of in terms of impact, I would say that we heard tonight from her, in terms of what it needed to do, was a lot like that. I think that's the main difference for me. You know what's missing from these? I figured it out, y'all. The music. Okay, because like Barack, you got U2, right? City of Blinding Lights, right? Got that feel. That's what it was. That's what it is. There's no music. You have the music, you have performances, right? But you don't have a theme. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, the theme is missing.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you. I will definitely be speaking to you soon. Everyone have a great night. Please be safe.
I would love to have seen Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos, perhaps used as a theme, but whatever. I'll take what I can get.
You too. Did you ever hear the Obama playlist from the? The one most fun thing about being part of the Obama candidacy and volunteering and going to all the events and everything. And hey, look, I'm not saying by any means I was one of the Well, I did a lot of the blog stuff, right? I did the stuff that basically allowed me to sit behind a keyboard. But there are people who went to cold weather places. They knocked on doors. They met racist people. You know, they just but at the end of the day, all the stuff that went on, the groups and everything, all that, it focused on one moment, and that was when the president would come out over that U2 music. They go ding ding, and you know the people were just. It got to a point where people were just they're whipped into a frenzy. You know, I mean, you couldn't even hear yourself think.
Right.
That's what I miss. Having said all that, look at this. Check this out. Having said all that, this is really, I think, something I think is worth sharing to get your response, because look at what happened with this tonight. Look, about to share with you right here. These are the trends on Twitter as I speak. The first one's promoted. That's 5G by AT&T, but Michelle Obama's number one. All right. Hashtag Democrat Convention is number 2. DNC 2020 is number 3. Democratic National Convention is number 4 hashtag. All right. Clippers are number 5. They did something.
Doncic had 40 points. That's the most ever by someone in their first ever playoff appearance.
And then Bernie is number 6. All right. So basically, look at this. Of the top 6, we have one that has nothing to do with the convention. The other was promoted, which could have had something to do with the convention if the DNC had bought the promoted part, but they didn't. And then you've got Kwai, The Rising, Billy Porter, Bruins, hashtag Below Deck Med, Eva Longoria, Paul George, Scott Baio, Melania. Undoubtedly, you know, I don't know what that's about, though. It's a snub. Oh, they're talking about a snub. How Melania refused to hold Trump's hand as they stepped off Air Force One. So in all of this, you have how funny is that, right? Okay.
Very.
I mean, you cannot find a negative.
Don't make no waves.
You cannot find a negative trending term connected with the Democratic National Convention, and it dominates the terms. I call that a home run. I don't know what you guys call it. I call that a 21st century home run. What do you think?
I'd say so. I think you said it correctly. I honestly, like, I've said this before. I don't know if I have, but even before, I think I heard somewhere, I think it was from Ring of Fire, I believe, where Joseph Ben's been saying that she possesses empathy, something Trump never had and never will have. But yeah, I'd say the Democrats, like I said before, Democrats hit this out of the park. Republicans have to come up with something that was just as good, if not better. If they really, I can't see either. Because let's be real here, even though Democrats, you could blame a little bit, let's be real. A lot of the times, especially in the Republican Party, that's a big reason why we are the way we are right now.
No, I mean, that was a mistake. You know, that whole thing. What? I mean, look, we elected a president who didn't himself expect to be president.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't expect to be president. It was like,
Howard Stern says it was for The Apprentice.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, you know what? Howard Stern said what?
I remember Howard Stern. He was being interviewed by Anderson Cooper, and he says that I have no doubt he ever wanted to be president because I think you mentioned how he did this partially to try to get ratings up a little bit on The Apprentice because the contract could have been renewed. I'm not too sure about that, but I don't think he expected to win. I think he expected Hillary to win this because that's what the polls says, and no, the fake polls or whatever, but hell, he didn't even win the popular vote. The reason why he won was because, you know, electoral college. It's the number one reason.
And, you know, fixing the vote and getting the Russians involved and all that stuff and, you know, proving. I mean, he's had Russian business ties going back to, I found an article 2008 when Eric Trump started going to Russia, and they were talking. He did an interview with a media company, and he said this is going to be the start of more trips. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I know it's the start of bigger things to come. Those were his words.
Sure.
Are you sure that's not a red flag, folks? Are you sure that's not a red flag? It sounds like a red flag to me.
Oh no, it's I think he's gone around the world. Trump has, and what he's done is he's taken this vast wealth of real estate properties, and he's used them as collateral for gigantic loans. And hey, if you have a problem, you can't pay one, you just declare bankruptcy, and then you get another loan to pay off that loan, and then another loan to pay off the other loan, and you just keep on stepping. And the loans are of such high amounts that the way you pay them off is through the sale of land and everything else. But by the way, you might never pay some of them off and just declare bankruptcy and keep moving.
Yeah,
it's an unethical way to move.
Yeah,
but hey, it's an unethical way to move, right?
And they said you couldn't borrow your way to wealth.
A small loan of $1 million, as they say.
You know who else is doing a variation? That's Byron Allen.
Oh! The guy that runs Entertainment Studios.
Yeah, he's borrowed $400 million. Did you know that?
Yep.
Yeah. And Joseph says $400 million Obama 2012. Joseph has not been around in a while. Joseph, where you been? He says 4 million Obama votes, 2012 voters sitting out. 2016 didn't help either. That's true. They weren't Hillary fans.
They either that or they thought, oh, Hillary had this back. I don't have to go out there. No. Whether you have the seat or not, go out there and show your support because you don't know. I mean, what if it goes the other way? You don't know that for sure. Yeah, one vote alone is not going to make a big difference.
Like me saying it's okay not to vote. I don't want to hear that.
Oh, no, you need to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tragic, man.
You can't let people make the decisions for you. You can't.
Not at all. Well, folks,
we've
we've
already seen that there is a concerted effort to depress the vote, to keep down the numbers through a variety of different means, right? I mean, maybe they'll bring back the poll tax while they're at it. So why stop? I mean, when you're on a roll in voter suppression, why not play all the hits?
Oh, that would be fantastic. And by fantastic, I definitely don't mean fantastic in a good way.
But I hope I'm kidding. But either way,
I hope so too.
Either way, we're going to see some crazy stuff happen. Like if you didn't already know, I'm telling you now, some crazy stuff is going to happen.
Hey, Joseph.
So we need a sizable cushion, right? You're, even if your vote isn't the vote that tips the ballots, we need some cushion because there'll be some crazy stuff happening. You heard it, probably not even here first, but you heard it from me.
Hey, let's see. Hey Joseph, let's see before we
just give you a fair warning. I was at 1%, so I plugged in my phone. So when I was on earlier, it just totally shut off. So in case you see me disappear, it's my phone.
Okay, that's fine. Well, so Joseph, did you happen to see the DNC? Because
I did not, because I had a prior commitment. But there was a couple things I wanted to bring up, but I don't want to interrupt the flow.
The DNC.
I taped it. I taped it because I had a prior commitment, so I will go through it. I'm catching as we're online. I'm on CNN, kind of looking through the highlights. But I did want to bring up a couple of things, but like I said, I don't want to interrupt the flow. You let me know when I could chime in on something.
Okay, let me real quick. This is Michelle Obama, who's the top non-purchased tweet Twitter trend. Mia Farrow, the legendary Mia Farrow, 32 minutes ago, tweets, Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is. That is the line of the night.
It's the line of the night.
Oh,
always had
that
great
is the line of the night.
Shout out to her writing staff. She's always had good writers.
Oh my God, yeah. And how cool is it for, of all people, Mia Farrow to pick that out? It put that out there, you know? Boom.
Love Mia Farrow.
Boom.
Love her son too.
Reactions. And then this person says Michelle Obama did in 18 minutes what Donald J. Trump could not do in 3.5 years. She united this. She got their attention. Bravo. And DC Alley replying to Mia Farrow, vote early in person if we can, request in-mail ballots tonight, send it back immediately, follow up, make sure it's received, make sure friends and family do the same, grab comfortable shoes, put on a mask, pack brown bag dinner and breakfast, prepare to stand in line all night. I'm loving this. This is a love-in. This is great. It is what it is. That's what it's going to say on 45's tombstone. This is hilarious. Oh, man. This guy says Joe's got to hit a home run with his knee. She can open the door for him, by the way. She didn't mention Kamala Harris, which is strange, I thought.
No, but I have an answer to that. The reason why she taped that speech before Kamala was the VP pick.
Ah, great point. Great point.
Yeah,
great
that would be why.
Great point. Oh, by the way, this is where's malaria? This one says
malaria.
That's hilarious. Melania is transcribing Michelle Obama's speech so she can use it next week. This one is hilarious. That was a smasher. I can see Donnie soiling his pants tonight. This is hilarious.
Now, I'm not usually one to defend Melania, but in her defense, this is like her third language, I think. So it's true. She's not great in English, but it's how good are you at your third language? I mean, I would sound great in my third language.
Yeah, that okay, fine. Hey, by the way, do you know that Donald Trump's mom is an immigrant too?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I most certainly knew that. Yes.
Yeah, and she might very well have been illegal.
Yeah, so they're for Trump based on the Republican.
He's an anchor baby.
Based on the Republican MO, he's a birther issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah. This one says could be double grampers tonight for 45. Just simply fantastic, clear enough for everyone, complete enough that we can just end the convention now. This person's nuts. Anyway, Michelle Obama dropping truth bombs. Oh, truth man. Bombs. Yes. And on Twitter, it is what it is. Real Donald Trump, words of a powerful woman.
You know what? I saw bits and pieces of Michelle's speech. And one thing I could say, and I think everybody on the panel would agree, is that when she spoke, the level of civility and intelligence just rose above the swamp that Trump created, right?
Oh,
yeah.
We see what America really is when she spoke.
Yep. Yeah.
When I was working for Barack, and this is 20 plus years ago, the person we most respected and feared was Michelle.
Yeah.
So yes, by far, she would call sometimes because Barack was known for sort of falling off his schedule when he'd be on the campaign. Oh, he was very much known for, spending too much time at one event, and so somebody had to be the, like there's a get back coach in football.
We had a fundraiser for him at the Mark Hopkins in 2007. This was like May 8th. And he didn't show up for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's typical Barack. Yeah.
And by the time he did show up, it was hilarious. I was thinking myself, I'll never get a chance to shake his hand or anything, right? And as it will have it, as life would have it, as God would have it, there's this receiving line of people. And the one thing I hate about political campaigns is the one thing I do like about this format is I'm not jumping all over everybody to physically, be near a candidate or get an interview or anything like that, right? That's one thing I like, because when you are in the normal environment, I call it pecking orders within pecking orders.
Yes.
Because everybody is trying to get to the candidate. It's like, oh, it drives me crazy. It's like, no. Well, there was some of that at this fundraiser I was talking about. But all of a sudden, somebody at the other side of the room at the Mark Hopkins had dropped this huge cart of food. And it created this crash, and everybody rushed over instinctively to see what it was. And guess what? I was able to move up in line, and that's how I met Barack.
But yeah, so she would call and say, does he know what time it is, or things like that. Or she would call and say, she would deputize somebody, usually my friend Cynthia Muhammad. Cynthia, go get him now. Yep. And so Cynthia would sort of push her way through. Thank you so much. The candidate has to be going now. She would grab him and physically pull him away because he would stay however long if people still wanted to talk. But I mean, being on the campaign trail with that family, I can tell you this much: Michelle is very much in charge of almost every part of their life. Believe me. And of course, some of you may know this. She was the primary breadwinner for the family until Barack's second book deal. She out-earned him every part of their life together until his second book deal.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, here. Check this. Let's see here. My favorite thing about Michelle Obama's speech, says Matthew Miller, was how she reiterated the need to go high right before she unleashed the "it is what it is" line. Stone cold killer.
Because if you go high enough, you could take a clear off right at the deck.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was like, Michelle Obama reminds me of I'm trying to think of the movie where the person starts off small and then they emerge as this, like, actually it's Star Wars, where I want to say The Force Awakens, but Rey winds up slashing everybody's heads off, and it's kind of like, oh shit. That's kind of what this feels like. It's like, oh man, she comes out, it's like she's got the lightsaber. Speaking of lightsabers, speaking of people who probably got zinged by it. Oh, by the way, let's see what the hashtag is under Dim Convention. Joe Biden says, tonight we saw that Americans are ready to come together and that we, the people, can overcome these crises and emerge stronger than ever. And Kamala Harris says, a powerful call to action by Michelle Obama. Register to vote now at iowavote.com. Hashtag Dim Convention. Actually retweeting that one. And Anna Navarro Cardenas says, something tells me Melania is not going to be cribbing Michelle's speech this week. Oh, man. And then let's see here. Keith Boykin says, Michelle Obama, so let me be honest and clear as I possibly can. Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He's clearly in over his head. We cannot meet this moment. It is what it is. That's a lie for your. I'll just say that's a lie for your ass, man.
Speaking of Melania, what was her slogan when she was trying to come up with some catchphrases for her?
It was "Be
what
best."
was it? Isn't that grammatically incorrect? That always bothered me. Like, why isn't anybody calling her out? Be best. What the hell does that mean?
Didn't Melania also take like some lines from one of Michelle's speeches?
That's why they keep calling her out on. Yes, there was a speech that she gave about 5 or 6 months into it was I guess her first major speech. About 5 or 6 months into the Trump presidency, and somebody went back and found it wasn't like word for word, but there were sections where there were certain phrases and certain things that were extremely similar to a speech about 3 years prior that that the previous First Lady had given. So, I mean, once again, I've known Michelle for 20 plus years, and she is in many ways a black girl from the South Side of Chicago, and also a high-powered corporate lawyer and a very protective mother who worried about what politics would do to her children, and for good reason. You know, there'd never been a black family in the White House before, and she didn't like the fact that her daughters are going to be guinea pigs for how America would treat two black girls in the White House.
Yeah.
And for the most part,
they came out all right, you know?
Right. I mean, for the most part, it wasn't too. I mean, there were some incidents, but it could have been worse.
It could be Bush level, right? You know,
right.
I've always been curious.
Yeah.
I've always been curious. What do you think out of all this? How is this going to affect Barron for the long term?
Who?
Barron Trump.
Barron Trump.
Oh gosh, I don't know, man.
Well,
by the way,
because that's you hardly see Barron at all. I mean, granted, you don't really see Melania that much, but Barron is. I've always been fascinated by Barron himself because I'm not trying to ridicule him, but is it because he doesn't want to face any scrutiny? I mean, is that Barron right there?
He is a little boy with a father who is 73 years old, which can't be the coolest thing in the world. If you put aside the fact, for the moment that his father's Donald Trump.
Hey, folks,
you're a little kid and your dad is 73.
Right.
Look.
I've seen even worse.
I was good on my own, that's the way it was.
Oh.
That's the way it was. You was good on your own.
I didn't put the music in there.
Barron is like, you know, he's an uncle he's 1 year older than his oldest niece, I believe, like Kai Trump, who's Don Jr., one of Don Jr.'s kids.
Yeah.
But it could be even weirder. Like I remember when Rupert Murdoch had his third wife, and it was like Wendy Dang. He's like when he like his late 60s, 70s, and his daughter was just the exact same age as his granddaughter. How off-putting is that?
Oh, that is whack.
And Murdoch is so old that he looks like he could have been Dang's grandfather. That's how old he is.
I gotta ask you guys, what's the possibility that Michelle Obama that Melania Trump actually steals Michelle Obama's classic line?
I wouldn't be shocked about that.
That particular line, obviously.
This is like, hope you all enjoying Melania's RNC speech. This is funny. Michelle's speech is a masterpiece. Twitter's Melania is a plagiarist jokes are also very good. Oh man. I wrote about
two topics I'd like to bring up.
Hey, hold on a second. I wrote for this. I wrote about people, says Ashley Reese, falling for that Melania slaps Donald Trump's hand away nonsense, and how resistance Democrats are still obsessed with painting Melania Trump as an unwitting victim of Trump's cruelty, a narrative that doesn't make much sense. Yeah, unless, of course, you have common sense, but moving along. It's like, you can't escape it. Michelle is speaking. And here's the thing. Melania Trump cannot win. If she goes away from this and comes up with something completely new, it's got to be on point. If it's not on point, she loses. I mean, she's just screwed. There's no other way. You cannot at all. And what are you going to say? Okay, for 4 years, I've had 4 years of great times with Be Great, and that's it. I mean, what does she have? What does she got?
I remember when she said, "I'm going to stop bullying," and I think that's extremely hypocritical because her husband is the biggest bully in the country.
Well, and that's the joke about her platform, Be Best.
He took bullying to a new level.
Like,
I mean, this is hilarious. Melania's upcoming beautiful tonight. This is such a wonderful and powerful speech by Michelle Obama, and we're damn lucky we'll be able to hear it again next week when Melania does hers.
Oh, this should be fantastic. I can't wait for the RNC where Melania just says, "Yeah, she said this. She said this. Okay, I'm going to say it. Good evening, America. We must stop."
Bradley Whitford, he's from The West Wing and most recently Godzilla, says, "I hope Melania plagiarizes some of this speech."
Right, there you go. There you go.
Oh, man. It's like, this is like funny. And what caught many by surprise, Melania Trump has released the text of her speech for next week's GOP convention. When my husband left, hold on something. When my husband left office with Joe Biden at his side, we had a record-breaking stretch of job creation. We secured the right to health care for 20 million people. Yeah. Fun fact, Michelle did not plagiarize a single word of her speech from Melania.
Well, what would there need to? Because, Melania was already stealing everything from Michelle, so wouldn't she then be plagiarizing from herself?
Yeah. She doesn't like idea. Both parties should stream an MST3K version of the other party's convention. Ratings.
Oh, Mystery Science Theater 3.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I would totally love to see Trump and Melania watching this and hearing their comments.
Oh, I'd like to see this. I'd like to see this. No, that's fake. No, we had the no fake news. The number of cases disproves this. Melania, we know your real name's Michael or something. I heard that weird conspiracy that Michelle Obama's a man, which I think you guys might have heard that once from someone that either online or someone you even know. Because I've dealt with it and I felt ashamed myself.
Yeah, how bad is it? Oh, that's hilarious. Look at this. Melania's plagiarized speech with usual expected distractions. I'm sure Michelle will clutch her pearls.
Nice pearl necklace.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. Oh, now I understand that my message won't be heard by some people. We're living in a nation that's deeply divided, and I'm a black woman speaking at the Democratic Convention. Melania Trump next week.
That's the best one. That's the best one.
Wait, that's great.
That's the best one.
Oh,
you say that. Who was the person that white, but then she said she was black or something?
Oh, you're talking about Rachel. Yeah, Rachel Dolezal. Yes.
Yeah, Rachel.
Yeah. So Melania might be that for all we know. I mean, her skin is a little bit darker. So personally, I dealt with an experience of one person asking if I was Puerto Rican or not. So
yeah, you could be. You could pass. You never know.
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from. I've asked if I was Jewish. Like, why not?
Vinny, you've got that sort of general, something's going on in there because you
ethnic white.
Something happened somewhere. So yeah, I can see how people could get you. Armenian, I think people might throw at you. Jewish.
Some people ask me if I was Jewish. I'm not Jewish in the slightest.
The last name's Abraham.
Now, what part of Italy is your family from, Benny?
All my dad's side is from Naples, and my mom's dad's side is from Naples as well. But my mom's side, my grandmother's side, is from Sicily.
Oh, that explains the hair.
Yep, the Moors.
Yeah. Also, we just see that image of, cowboy Trump looking in the distance, and the lovely partner by his side, the old cowboy Kanye, with his Yeezy cowboy hat and Yeezy boots, which are probably just, I don't know, just skins of like cows wrapped around his feet or something. He's selling for 200 shillings of gold at the local at the local under the bridge or something. Oh no! Oh my god!
So I want to bring up my two topics. Is that all right?
Oh, go right ahead, Joseph.
So the two things I wanted to discuss with all of you is the one thing that suddenly disappeared. Mike Bloomberg won, and how the Democratic Party for a long time has been a bunch of pacifists, and I think they need to fight back, fire with fire. Now, let me talk about Bloomberg real quick, because when he was running for president, he promised the DNC and the party that he would fill their coffers to fight Donald Trump. Up to this point, I don't believe he has done that, because we would have heard about that, because him being a businessman and him being out there, he would have let everybody know that he stepped to the plate and fulfilled his promise that he said he was going to do. So that's the one thing I'm concerned about.
No, I'm not. Why? Because you haven't coordinated. You haven't officially kicked off the last part of the campaign until your vice president and president are set. Okay, and once that's done, then everything kicks in, because you've got, look, party raised $26 million within an hour the night that Kamala Harris was announced. Okay, and I mean, I'll just say this. I'm guessing. I think the best thing to do is just for me. You know what? Look, I will. I'll ask the party by email, see if they answer.
Okay.
You know,
what is maybe Bill and Vinny's take on that?
There's a press briefing tomorrow morning. I got to go to bed because there's a press briefing.
I just realized, Joseph, I don't think I saw Michael Bloomberg there at all, actually.
Well, that's kind of my point,
We saw Bernie there.
Oh, what?
I think we saw Warren there too. Like, we did not see Michael Bloomberg at all, and he was the one that's paying the most amount of money.
We haven't, but wait a minute though. Let me check the list of speakers, okay? Because,
we didn't see him yet, but
right.
Even when they showed the people that were in the, they showed Buttigieg, they showed Yang, they showed Warren, they showed Harris, obviously, they showed O'Rourke.
Well, don't forget, Zenny62 at DNC2020.com has the list of speakers. So all you got to do, and I'll put this out right now, all you got to do is go there. What I'm doing right now is I'm removing this. I'm going to stop the screen. I'm going back over here. I sound like Sesame Street. And I'm going to...
character.
Yeah, here we go. And we were sharing all these comments that people made about Michelle Obama's speech, which were really great. So anyway, I'm going down here. And right, okay, so we've got Tuesday, we have Sal Yates, Chuck Schumer, John Kerry, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Linda Brett Rochester, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden. Wednesday, we have Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, Tony Evers, Michelle Lujan Grissom, Gabrielle Giffords, and President Obama. Thursday, we have Cory Booker, Gavin Newsom, yay, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Mayor Pete, Senator Tammy Baldwin, Tammy Duckworth, Chris Coons, Kamala Harris, the Biden family, and Joe Biden. Yeah, you're right. There's no Bloomberg. No Bloomberg.
So my only concern would be the fact that he's not involved at all, at least from the onset, from a spectator's point of view. Is he going to say, well, wait a minute, you guys haven't even brought me into the fold. You didn't put me in the DNC. Why should I give you guys money? I mean, theoretically, right? If he's that petty, that might go that way.
Honestly, look, Mike Bloomberg's involvement is about that big, okay? He's not going to help us win.
No, but I'm talking about money. He said he would put money into this election. I don't see that happening.
We have Jeff Bezos. He's worth what? $100 billion?
Way more.
Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook. I mean, they're both sides of the fence. There are enough billionaires in the party. Tom Steyer's got more money than Mike Bloomberg. So we have enough billionaires not to have a problem.
And don't forget Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Yeah, I mean, the Democratic Party is not hungry for building.
They won't need to have a bake sale if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. I mean, if Mike wants to come and play, too late. I mean, there's a reason, and not only that. Look, at the face of it, is this: Mike Bloomberg is not a Democrat.
Nope.
Okay, and I would personally object to a convention.
Well, he just pledged $80 million to the Democratic Party.
See, hear that? My mom said he just pledged $80 million to the Democratic Party.
Okay, so that answers the question then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
This is kind of breaking on the spot reporting you can only get from Zenny 62 Media and his mother.
Hey, Zanny, did you tell your mom how great I thought her vlog was?
I certainly did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, it was great. I hope to see more of her.
Yeah.
Hey, Zenny's mom, did you happen to catch my vlog on Buck O'Neill?
I meant to show it to her. I haven't, but I will.
I know everybody wants to cater to Zenny's mom because I even told Zenny the other day, hey, Zenny, show your mom my Mount Rushmore vlog.
I didn't do that. I didn't get a chance either. I will.
No, Trump, your head is not going on there.
Tomorrow we have at 4:00 Eastern, Dave Cavall interview.
Can't wait.
Yeah, the president of the Oakland Athletics. Yeah, very excited. Very excited. So
one last thing I know you probably want to go is, what do you guys think about the approach the Democratic Party did in 2016 and now? My belief system is that we got to fight because this whole kumbaya stuff is an ideal situation, but it never works. You have to come out, fight fire with fire when it comes to Trump. At least when it comes to Trump, because we're dealing with the devil. We're not dealing with civility. And I think you have to fight like Michael the Archangel, stab the devil, get rid of him. And we got to attack. Because what I don't like is this Republican Party hijacking the American flag and hijacking the ideology that only they are Americans.
I agree with you. My mom is on camera, but
I love that.
She agrees.
What? Agree with him.
You hear?
I go back to when I was a little girl, and I was born in 1934, and I remember when I was 6 years old that I just knew this country belonged to me, and I was going to do everything I could to be success in the whole story, and never feel Trump is almost make you feel like you don't belong.
Right. Not me though. You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a little different thing.
Different way of life.
Right, because I told my son that Trump is very what they call evil. He is just pure evil. So you have to go at it that way. And it's going to take a lot of work to beat that guy. Because he is.
Yeah.
So, but I was really happy with the Democratic
Party. Yeah.
This part of the convention.
I am too. Yeah.
Yeah, but we got more help from Bernie.
Yep.
We got a lot of help from Michelle. And then the New York governor, I thought he was really great.
Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, governor. I did too.
Yeah, he Zenny's mom, I can tell you right now that, Cuomo over here has a very divisive feeling. Even if you're on the left side of the aisle, he's very divisive. But putting all that aside, the way that he was able to lead New York through the pandemic, when we still have the most amount of deaths out of any other states. Granted, Florida, Texas, and California, especially those three, have exceeded us in terms of cases. But if it wasn't for Cuomo, we were hit the hardest in terms of deaths. He was the one that was able to really lead us through to where we are now as the beacon of hope. And now we have one of the least amount of cases since then, and it's because of the leadership of Andrew Cuomo that I'm able to sit here right here today and compliment him.
Outside of he did.
He has a special perspective that a lot of people do not have.
Yeah. But outside of his father, I don't know of a single New York politician that was universally loved by every New Yorker.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't know of it. Hey, folks, I got to get to bed. It's midnight. You know, I got because we have a press briefing tomorrow at 11 in the morning, and I know they're going to send the email at 10:30 in the morning. So I got to get to bed.
Mm-hmm. So best of luck, Zenny.
Thank you all.
All right.
Yes, yeah. Thanks again.
Zenny, just so you know, I put more of the press releases up, and I'm still doing that.
You the man. You the man.
Thanks. Right. Best of luck, guys. Always love speaking. I can't wait for tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow.
I would normally say stick around the broadcast, the back room, but I'm exhausted. So
we had a great night. Thanks so much, guys.
Vinny and I